There is a predator that sleeps in your bed. It has no claws, no fangs, yet it leaves scars that never bleed and never heal. It feeds on your doubt. It hunts your sanity. We call it narcissism, but the ancients called it hybris, the arrogance that defies the gods. Today, we strip away the modern clinical terms to reveal the raw machinery of the ego. You are about to witness a brutal dissection of the manipulative mind, not by therapists, but by history's greatest strategists. Niccolò Machiavelli, the man who views the human ego as a weapon of conquest. And Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who sees it as a prison of the soul. This is not a lecture. It is a manual of psychic defense. We will expose the architecture of the lie and the mechanics of gaslighting. Welcome to the debate, the anatomy of the mask.
Marcus, let us stop pretending that the world is a gentle place governed by reason. It is not. It is a chaotic, grinding machine. Your virtue, this stoic humility you cling to, is tedious. You speak of it as if it were a conquest, a high ground. But in the trenches of reality, humility is the costume of the invisible. It is the uniform of the servant, not the master. You preach that a man should be content with his lot, that he should accept his obscurity with grace. I tell you that this is a philosophy designed to keep the sheep in the pen. The wolf does not practice humility. The wolf does not apologize for his hunger.
Humility is not a conquest, Niccolò. It is an anchor. It is the only thing that keeps a man from drifting into the violent storm of his own delusions. You speak of wolves and sheep because you see life as a war. But the man who is at war with the world is also at war with himself. You despise the invisible man. But tell me, who sleeps better? The man who knows who he is in the dark? Or the man who needs 1,000 lamps and a cheering crowd just to feel that he exists? Humility is not submission. It is accuracy. It is knowing exactly what you are, a small part of a great whole, and finding peace in that truth.
Peace? Peace is the cousin of death. I do not want peace. I want significance. Look at the history books, Emperor. Who is renumbered? The quiet man who did his duty in the dark corner? The one who followed the rules and accepted his place in the whole? No, he is dust. He is forgotten before his body is cold. The ones we remember are the ones who screamed their own names to the heavens, the ones who forced the gods to listen. Narcissism, as the moderns call it, is nothing more than the full, unadulterated comprehension of one's own value. It is the audacity to look at the chaos of existence and say, I matter. I am the center. The world is a stage, Marcus, a grand, bloody theater. If you do not write your role as the protagonist, surely someone else will cast you as an extra, and extras are expendable.
You confuse a role with a soul. The actor on the stage is not real. He is a phantom made of painted light and scripted words. When the curtain falls, Niccolò, the actor must wash off the paint. And what is left? If he has spent his life believing he is the king, the silence of the dressing room will terrify him. You say the ego is a shield against insignificance. I say it is a prison. A prison with golden bars, perhaps, but a prison nonetheless. When you define yourself by how others see you, you hand them the keys to your happiness. You become a slave to every passing glance, every whisper, every raised eyebrow. Is that freedom? To monitor the applause meter every second of every day? To wither like a dying flower at the moment the sun of public opinion goes behind a cloud?
Better a slave to admiration than a free man in a gutter. You speak of the ego as a burden. I tell you, it is armor. It is the only thing that protects the genius from the crushing weight of mediocrity. The masses are blind, Marcus. They are cattle. They judge by their eyes, not their hands. They cannot taste the truth. They only see the glitter. They want the spectacle. They crave the giant. They beg for an idol to worship because it relieves them of the burden of thinking for themselves. Why should I deny them their idol? I build an image larger than life, a colossus, and men obey me not for what I am, flesh and bone, but for what I appear to be. I craft a legend. I project invulnerability, and in doing so, I become invulnerable. The perception becomes the reality.
But the idol is hollow, and the man trapped inside the idol is suffocating. You speak of power, of controlling the masses, but look closely at the dynamic. The narcissist is not the master, he is the beggar. He pleads, he demands, he manipulates. He steals the attention of others to fill a bucket that is riddled with holes. No matter how much love, fear, or admiration you pour into it, it drains away.
You wake up every morning not as a god, but as an addict. You need your fix of validation. You need someone to reflect your image back to you. If the world turns its back on you for 1 hour, you collapse. You call this strength? Dependence is not strength. Autonomy is strength.
Weakness? You call it weakness? No, it is hunger. And hunger is the engine of the world.
The man satisfied with himself conquers no empires. The man at peace does not cross the Rubicon. He sits in his garden and rots. It is the hungry man, the man who feels the world owes him something, the man who feels he was promised a crown at birth, who moves mountains. That wound you despise, that hole in the bucket, it is fuel. It is a nuclear reactor. My ambition is born from the refusal to be ordinary. The narcissist looks at the limits of human achievement and feels insulted. He takes it personally, and so he pushes further, harder, faster than any balanced man ever could. Civilization was not built by content men, Marcus. It was built by megalomaniacs who wanted to leave a scar on the face of the earth.
And that fuel burns everything it touches. It consumes the family, it consumes the friends, and eventually it consumes the host.
You move mountains, perhaps, but you cannot move your own mind to a place of stillness. You run and run, chasing a horizon that recedes with every step. I was the most powerful man on earth. I held life and death in my palm. I could have demanded worship. I could have built statues of gold in every square. But I learned that the only fortress that cannot be breached is the mind that needs nothing from the outside.
When you tie your well-being to your ambition, you are tying yourself to a wild horse. You may ride it for a while, and it may look majestic, but eventually it will throw you, and you will be dragged.
A fortress of one is just a tomb. You isolate yourself in your inner citadel, polishing your little virtues, while outside, we manipulate the threads of fate. You underestimate the art of the persona. The mask I create is not just a lie, it is a masterpiece. People want to be deceived, Marcus. They beg for it. They cannot bear the randomness and cruelty of life. They want a narrative. The narcissist gives them that narrative. He gives them a hero to follow or a villain to fear. He creates meaning where there was none. Why should I show my weaknesses? Why should I show my doubts? That is vulgar. That is common. I curate my existence. I edit out the flaws. I present a version of myself that is perfect, inevitable, and divine. And the world loves me for it. The truth is boring, Marcus. The lie, well constructed, is sublime.
The lie is a heavy burden to carry. I feel tired just listening to you describe the effort it takes to maintain it. Imagine the exhaustion, Niccolò. to never be able to rest, to never be able to show your face without the paint, to be constantly vigilant, watching every word, every angle, every shadow. The man who lives by appearances lives in terror of the mirror. He knows that one crack in the glass, one slip of the mask, and the whole illusion shatters.
And deep down, he knows he is a fraud. That dissonance, the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be, is a poison. It corrodes the soul from the inside out.
Then I ensure the glass never cracks. I control the lighting. I control the angle. That is the skill. That is the discipline.
You call it vanity? I call it survival. In the court of wolves, the sheep who reveals his soft underbelly gets eaten. I wear the skin of a lion, so the wolves hesitate. And if I wear it long enough, if I wear it with enough conviction, who is to say I am not a lion? Identity is fluid, Marcus. We are what we make ourselves. I choose to be a god. You choose to be a man. That is not a moral superiority on your part. It is simply a lack of imagination.
And eventually, you forget you are not a lion. You begin to believe your own fiction. That is when the madness sets in.
You lose touch with reality. You surround yourself with sycophants who tell you only what you want to hear. You fire the messengers of truth. The true king does not need to roar to prove he is dangerous. The promontory does not attack the waves. It simply stands.
The narcissist is the wave. Loud, violent, foaming with rage, crashing against the shore in a desperate attempt to reshape the land. But inevitably, the wave loses its energy. It crashes and dissolves, leaving nothing but wet sand and a fading echo. The rock remains.
A poetic image, as always. But while the wave crashes, it shapes the coastline. It changes the geography of the world. The rock just sits there, eroding slowly, waiting to be turned into sand.
I would rather be the destructive force that is remembered than the passive stone that is ignored.
I seek peace because you are afraid of the fire. I seek immortality. A poetic image, as always. But while the wave crashes, it shapes the coastline. It changes the geography of the world. The rock just sits there, eroding slowly, waiting to be turned into sand. I would rather be the destructive force that is remembered than the passive stone that is ignored. You seek peace because you are afraid of the fire. I seek immortality. If I must burn my own soul to light up history, if I must consume everyone around me to keep the flame alive, then pass me the torch. I will not fade into the gentle night. I will rage against it. And if that makes me a monster in your eyes, so be it. Monsters are feared, and fear is a form of respect.
Then burn. But do not call it success when you are nothing but ash in the end. A man who understands himself cannot be deceived by the flickering light of fame or the heat of fear. He knows that the only approval that matters is the one he gives himself when he closes his eyes at night. When the crowds are gone and the lights are out, and you are left alone with your own thoughts, that is the only judgment that counts.
And when you close your eyes, Marcus, in that holy silence of yours, do you see a God, or just a lonely old man waiting for the end?
I see a man, flawed, mortal, and temporary. And that is enough, because it is the truth.
Enough of the abstract, Marcus. Let us speak of the craft. Philosophy discusses the soul. I discuss the strings that move the puppet. To control a human being, you do not use chains. Chains are visible. Chains provoke rebellion. To truly possess someone, you must build a prison within their own mind.
You speak of the mind as territory to be conquered. That is your first error. The mind is a sovereign citadel. It can be besieged, yes, but it can only be entered if the gates are opened from the inside.
Precisely, and I know the secret knock. It begins with what the moderns call love bombing, though I call it the reflection of desire. When I choose a target, I do not show them who I am. I show them who they want to be. I become a mirror. I listen to their deepest insecurities, their hidden dreams, and then I reflect those back to them, amplified 1,000 times. I become their soulmate. I become the only person in the world who truly understands them. I flood them with attention. I validate every thought, every grievance. I create a vacuum where only the two of us exist. In this phase, I am not a man. I am a drug. And they become addicted to the way I make them feel.
This is the seduction of flattery. It appeals to the lowest part of the soul, the vanity that craves to be special. The Stoic sees this flood of affection and pauses. He asks, "Why is this stranger offering me a kingdom so quickly?" True affection is a slow-growing tree. What grows overnight is usually a weed. When someone tries to rush the intimacy, when they try to bypass the natural rhythm of trust, the rational mind raises the drawbridge. We must learn to strip away the emotional packaging of an event. A man praising you excessively is not a sign of your greatness, it is a sign of his design.
Caution is useless against intoxication. By the time they ask questions, the hook is already in their throat. And that is when I pull the line. This is the crucial shift, the devaluation. I stop the praise. I withdraw the warmth. Suddenly, I am cold. I am distant. They panic. They wonder, what did I do wrong? They try harder to please me. They chase the high they felt in the beginning. And now they are pliable. Now they are ready for the masterpiece, the denial of reality, gaslighting.
You describe a torture method. You destabilize their perception to make them doubt their own senses.
I rewrite history as it happens. If they confront me with a lie I told yesterday, I look them in the eye with absolute conviction and say, I never said that. I tell them, you are imagining things. You are crazy. You are too sensitive. You are remembering it wrong. The key, Marcus, is conviction. If I lie with enough force, and if they are already emotionally dependent on me, they will choose my lie over their truth. Because accepting the truth means accepting that I am a monster, and they cannot bear that. So they sacrifice their sanity to keep the illusion of my love alive. I become the arbiter of their reality.
This is indeed the murder of the rational faculty. But for every poison, there is an antidote. The Stoic defense against gaslighting is the radical adherence to objective representation. We look at facts stripped of interpretation. If I heard you say it, you said it. Your denial does not change the past. It only reveals your character in the present. When the manipulator says, "You are crazy," the Stoic does not argue. He does not try to prove his sanity. To argue is to grant validity to your accusation. Instead, he observes. He thinks, "This person is lying to me. This is a characteristic of a dishonest mind." The gaslighter needs my confusion to work. If I remain clear, if I trust my own eyes and ears, his words are just noise, meaningless wind against a stone wall.
You rely on your clarity, but what if I take away your support? I do not just attack your mind, I attack your world. Isolation. I slowly cut the threads that bind you to others. Your mother is controlling you. Your friends are jealous of our love. They don't understand us. I create an us against the world mentality. I make them believe that I am their only protector, while in reality, I am their jailer. And to keep them on their toes, I use triangulation. I mention another name, a rival. She understands me better than you do. I provoke jealousy to make them compete for my favor. The moment they are competing for me, they stop judging me.
You weave a web of anxiety. But the Stoic cannot be isolated because he is never truly alone. He is a citizen of the cosmopolis, the world community. Even if you physically remove my friends, you cannot remove the principles that guide me. And as for your triangulation, jealousy is a disease of opinion. It is the belief that something is being taken from you. But you cannot lose what you do not own, and I do not own you. If you wish to go to another, go. If you compare me to another, compare. It does not change my value. My value is determined by my own virtue, not by your preference. This is the gray rock method made philosophical. I become as uninteresting, as unreactive, and as solid as a rock. You try to provoke a reaction, you get silence. You try to make me jealous, you get a shrug.
Indifference. Indifference is the one thing I cannot abide. Hate me, and I own you. Love me, and I own you. Scream at me, cry for me, and I am satisfied. Emotional reaction is supply. It is food. But if you look at me with blank eyes, if you treat me like a piece of furniture, you starve me. That is a declaration of war. If you play dead, I will escalate. I will break your things. I will destroy your reputation. I will launch a smear campaign so vicious that you will have to react. Everyone has a breaking point, Marcus. I will find yours. I will drag you into the mud with me.
You may drag my body into the mud, Niccolò. You may soil my name in the streets. These are indifference, things outside my control. But you cannot touch the ruling center of my mind unless I hand you the key. The smear campaign is painful, yes, but it acts as a sieve. It filters out the false friends who believe the lies from the true ones who know my character. You are doing me a service.
You are revealing the truth of who is loyal. And while you run around spreading poison, I will continue to do my work. I will continue to be good.
The best revenge is not to be like that. The best revenge is to live a life so upright that when people hear the lies you tell about me, they simply laugh.
You are assuming you have the strength to endure the siege. Most do not. Most people crumble. They would rather apologize for sins they didn't commit than endure the silence of the narcissist. The silence. The silent treatment. It is the whip I use to punish disobedience. I withdraw my presence entirely. I look through them as if they were ghosts. The terror of being invisible breaks them. They come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. And that is when I own them completely.
The silent token is only a punishment if I desire your voice. But if I have realized what you are, if I have realized that you are a predator, then your silence is not a punishment. It is a vacation. It is a moment of peace. The Stoic uses your silence to rebuild his own walls, to reconnect with himself.
You think you are punishing me by leaving me alone? No, you are liberating me. You are showing me that I can stand on my own 2 feet. And when you inevitably return, expecting to find a broken man begging for scraps, you will find a fortress that has closed its gates. And if the gates are closed, I will find another victim. The world is full of open doors.
Then go, and let the door shut behind you.
We have spoken of tactics and origins, Marcus, but let us look at the horizon. You talk of winning the internal battle, but in the end, biology defeats us all. The game ends. The pieces go back in the box. You seem to think there is dignity in this. I see only a deadline.
It is not a deadline, Niccolò. It is a completion. The tragedy is not that life ends, but that for some, it never truly begins. The man who spends his life wearing a mask never lives. He performs, and when the curtain falls, he realizes he has no home to go to, only the dressing room.
But what a performance it was! That is what matters. You obsess over the truth of the soul, but the world remembers the glory of the act. I prefer to live as a feared god, burning bright and violent, than to fade away like a whisper in a library. However, I will grant you one thing. There is a terror that you Stoics do not understand, because you do not climb high enough to feel the vertigo, the terror of the descent. The mask, it gets heavy, Marcus, heavier with every passing year.
The weight of the mask is the burden of the lie. Gravity acts on the soul just as it acts on the body.
Tell me about this terror. Tell me what happens when the charm begins to fade, when the wolf loses its teeth. It is a slow rot. That is the nightmare. The narcissist trades on his vitality, his beauty, his sharpness. These are the tools of seduction. But time is a thief. The wrinkles appear. The wit slows down. The victims, they become younger, and you become older. They start to see the cracks in the porcelain. The supply, that delicious adoration I crave, begins to dry up. It becomes harder to extract. The nightmare is not being hated. Hate is passion. Hate is attention. I can work with hate. The nightmare is irrelevance. It is walking into a room that I used to command, and no one turns their head. It is speaking, and people interrupt me. It is becoming ordinary. To the narcissist, ordinary is a fate worse than death. It is to be a ghost while your heart still beats.
And so you see the inevitable collapse of your architecture. You built a castle on the quicksand of other people's opinions. Did you expect the sand to hold forever?
This is the aging narcissist. It is a pathetic figure, Niccolò. He ends his days angry, bitter, blaming the world for his obsolescence. He surrounds himself with sycophants who are paid to be there, or with victims too naive to know his history. He tells stories of his past glories to anyone who will listen, but his eyes are empty. The void he tried to fill with the adoration of the crowd is now infinite. It expands. It swallows him. He devoured everyone around him, his spouse, his children, his friends, and finally, having nothing left to eat, the Ouroboros devours itself. It is a cruel fate, I admit, but perhaps it is the price of greatness. Perhaps the flame that burns twice as bright must burn half as long. You judge the collapse, but you do not appreciate the height of the flight. Is it not better to have tasted the nectar of gods, even if it turns to ash in the mouth? Look at you, Marcus. You sit in your tent writing journals that you think no one will read. You embrace your natural decay. Does your sovereignty keep you warm at night? Is your self-sufficiency not just another word for loneliness? You claim to need no one. To me, that sounds like the definition of a corpse. To be human is to need. To be human is to be entangled.
You confuse solitude with loneliness. They are not the same. In fact, they are opposites. Loneliness is the poverty of the self. It is the feeling that something is missing, that you are incomplete without an external other to validate you. The narcissist is the loneliest creature on earth, even in a crowded room, because he cannot stand his own company.
Solitude is the richness of the self. It is the state of being whole. When I am alone, I am with my thoughts, my principles, and my reason. I am in the company of the inner citadel. I am not empty. I am full. I do not need to use others as crutches for a broken ego. I can look in the mirror and see a flawed man, yes, but an honest one. I do not need the mirror to smile back at me to feel worthy. But you die alone, just as I do. When the final breath comes, your inner citadel crumbles, just like my golden palace. The worm does not distinguish between the Stoic and the narcissist. We both rot. So why deny yourself the pleasure of control while you are here? Why deny the thrill of bending the world to your will? You speak of virtue as if it pays a dividend after death. It does not. This is it, Marcus. This struggle is all there is. And I choose to be the hammer, not the anvil.
We both die, yes, but we do not die the same way. The narcissist dies 1,000 deaths before his heart stops. Every time he is ignored, he dies. Every time he is criticized, he dies. Every time he sees someone younger and stronger, he dies. He lives in a state of perpetual existential panic, running from the inevitable. The Stoic dies only once, and when that moment comes, he greets it not as an insult to his grandeur, but as a natural law. I am not the hammer or the anvil. I am the metal that accepts the fire and the blow to become something stronger. You ask why I deny the pleasure of control? Because control over others is an illusion. You never possessed them, Niccolò. You only possessed their fear or their desire. You never touched their souls. And in doing so, you lost your own. You became a reflex, a reaction to the world. True sovereignty is having no debts to illusion. It is to walk through the world naked of pretense. When the end comes, I will look back on a life where I tried to be good, not great, where I tried to help, not conquer. And in that quiet assessment, there is a peace that your adrenaline can never purchase.
Peace. He laughs, but it is a dry, hollow sound. You prize peace above all. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps I am running. Perhaps I have been running since I was a child, terrified of being small. But I cannot stop, Marcus. The machine is in motion. The hunger is still there. Even as the light fades, I want them to look at me. I want them to remember. Is there no mercy for the man who just wanted to be a giant?
The mercy lies in the truth, Niccolò. It is never too late to step off the stage. It is never too late to smash the mask and see what lies beneath. You might find that the small, ordinary man you were so afraid of is actually enough. But you have to be willing to lose the audience. You have to be willing to sit in the silence. Can you do that? Can you sit with yourself without screaming?
I do not know. The silence, it is so very loud.
Then that is where your work begins. Not in the palace, but in the silence. You built a castle on sand. Now the tide is coming in. Let it fall, and see what remains standing on the rock. We are done here. The debate is over. The rest is silence.
The dust settles, and the voices fade. What remains in the silence between the predator and the philosopher? We have witnessed two fundamental forces of the human experience colliding. Machiavelli represents the external world, the domain of reputation, influence, and the seduction of power. He speaks to the part of us that wants to be admired, that wants to rewrite reality to escape pain. Marcus Aurelius represents the internal world, the domain of conscience, truth, and the resilience of the spirit. The tragedy of the narcissist, as we have seen, is not that they love themselves too much. It is that they do not love themselves at all. The grandeur is a compensation for a void so deep it threatens to swallow them whole. They are the hungry ghosts of Eastern philosophy, possessing giant bellies but needle-thin throats, unable to ever be satisfied. Machiavelli's tactics, the love-bombing, the triangulation, the gaslighting, are not signs of strength. They are panic responses. They are the flailing of a drowning man who will push anyone down just to catch a breath of air. When you understand this, the narcissist changes in your eyes. They transform from a terrifying monster into a tragic, broken figure. And this realization is the key to your freedom. Marcus Aurelius gave us the ultimate weapon, the inner citadel. You cannot change the narcissist. You cannot fix them with love. You cannot reason with them using logic, and you cannot defeat them by playing their game. If you wrestle with a pig, you both get dirty, but the pig enjoys it. The only victory is non-engagement. It is the gray rock made spiritual. When you stop providing the emotional fuel, the narcissistic supply, you become invisible to them. They cannot hook what they cannot touch. By anchoring your self-worth in your own virtue rather than their approval, you become unshakable. You become the promontory against which the waves break. But there is a final, darker truth we must confront before we leave. The narcissist is not just out there. The seeds of this pathology lie dormant in every human heart. We all crave validation. We all curate our masks on social media. We all prefer a comforting lie to a harsh truth occasionally. The battle against narcissism is not just about escaping a toxic partner or boss. It is a war against the tyrant within your own soul. It is the daily practice of killing the part of you that needs to be worshipped. The Stoic path is a lonely one, but it is the only path that leads to sovereignty. It asks you to accept that you might be forgotten, that you might be misunderstood, and that you might not be applauded. But in exchange, it offers you something the Machiavellian narcissist will never possess: peace. The narcissist dies 1,000 deaths, terrified of every mirror that might show their true age or irrelevance. The Stoic dies only once, having lived every day in accordance with reality. As you step away from this video and back into the world of masks and shadows, ask yourself, who is sitting on the throne of your mind? Is it the insecure tyrant who demands constant praise? Or is it the quiet philosopher who needs nothing but the truth? The answer to that question will determine not just your happiness, but your destiny. Choose your king wisely. The war for your mind is constant. If you found a weapon in this video, wield it. Subscribe to join the few who dare to look into the abyss without blinking. Comment, "I am the Citadel," to declare your sovereignty, or "I see the masks," if you are awake. Until next time.